So this is the new Dalaran. What would the new? So we looked at what the new Gilneas would look like, right? What would the new Dalaran look like? Because we know that's another city. They got a seed. They're waiting. Good morning, Amaraz. Poll is live. They're waiting. They got the seed. Where are they going to plant it? In your ass? Maybe. Maybe. Around the corner? Yes. Who knows? But let's see, anyways, what one of our favorites is going to say. Anyways,
Legion ended years ago. Since then, we've had a major faction conflict, we've had an entire journey into the afterlife with the Shadowlands, and 5 years later, we are now going into the Dragon Isles. However, throughout this entire time, which has been, what now, close to 10 years, Dalaran has just been floating around on the Broken Isles, even though the Broken Isles are not relevant whatsoever. What has the Kirintor been up to by this point? Are they going to just remain there? Or is it time for them to return back to the Eastern Kingdoms and to finally rebuild the city back to its former glory? So the Dalaran is no longer just a floating magic military base, and what would this rebuilt Dalaran look like?
Did I just talk about a seed and we're talking about Dalaran? I did, didn't I? Yeah, we're talking about Dalaran here. What would the new Dalaran look like?
A lot of people see Dalaran as this player hub, and really this floating aspect of the city has
Did you say good morning? Of course I did, Amraz, yes.
Made Dalaran floating in the Warcraft movie, even though it is the first war in question, but this is only a recent and a really recent development. For most of its history, and keep in mind this is thousands of years of history, Dalaran has been one of the most prominent human kingdoms. Think of it something like a really powerful city-state, and it has been the most prominent place in the Eastern Kingdom when it came to magic. Both elves and humans were a part of its history, and if you wanted to do anything magic related, Dalaran was the place to be. Now, don't get me wrong, though, Dalaran was not a university town, a college city where people came to learn and then just do their own thing. This was a place of power as well as exceptional influence, as well as learning. That was really an addition. Here, the Guardians of Tirisfal, the really powerful mages that were in charge of protecting the world, were present with the so-called Council of Six. From Dalaran, threats and incursions to Azeroth were observed, expeditions sent to protect the planet. Many powerful artifacts and secrets were kept in this place, and all this was until artists decided to destroy it back in Warcraft 3, and it was, for one of the reasons, because of these powerful artifacts. Now, I'm not going to give you a full-on lore lesson on this, but
did I?
Is a
My bad,
very
Amras.
quick timeline of things. Dalaran was a pretty big, large, and powerful city with surrounding areas.
I remember my first view of Dalaran, right? Was really the first interaction I ever had with Dalaran was I was playing Alliance and I'm running to Scarlet Monastery. And if you guys remember this, there was a giant purple bubble in the game where Dalaran used to be. And you used to have to run by it. You used to foot it to Scarlet Monastery. Before you had enough gold to get him out, you were freaking running to probably the best dungeon in the game. They need to make it a Mythic Plus. But anyways, you're running to Scarlet Monastery and you run by this giant purple bubble. And so what did I do? Of course I WoW Wiki did. I wanted to see what is this giant purple bubble for. This is back in Classic. Back when it was regular WoW. Right? And I'm playing and I'm running past this bubble and I want to know what it is. I find out it's where Dalaran used to be. Yep. It's where Dalaran was. And that was the first time I ever had any sense of oh, there's a city called Dalaran in the game. And then obviously when Wrath of the Lich King comes out, you finally get to see it.
This came in and pretty much destroyed most of it, killing the leader Antonidas in the process. Then some human resistance came back with Gyarados.
They are gonna make it
maybe a smaller part of the Kirintor, although
I don't know if that's
really
confirmed.
Know how influential they have been at this point. Then Gyarados did the entire thing with Kiltas, where he baited him and then imprisoned him in Dalaran and almost got rid of the Blood Elves completely. However, don't get me wrong, Dalaran
you guys gonna
was
really
not
leave this at a tie right now?
as a city at this point. Some parts remained which were useful, such as prisons, but this place was overall just a complete mess.
I
It
can't
was
do a vote on this
destruction filled with self-proclaimed warlord using parts of it and a bunch of experiments just running around, and overall just the best word to describe this place would be chaos. Well, some time would pass, things would settle down, and the time of World of Warcraft would begin. At this point, what remained of the Kirintor and the citizens of Dalaran, they decided to do their best to preserve the city. So they erected this massive, really powerful magical barrier that would destroy
Looks like we're just gonna watch
anyone that tried
SpongeBob
to
videos today,
and
yeah.
they managed to maintain what remained of the once glorious city, and more than likely rebuilt certain parts of it during this decade or so. No one really knows how much time has passed exactly. Then the northern invasion became a thing, and Dalaran was magically airlifted and transported to the Crystal Song Forest. It was literally, physically ripped from the earth, leaving only a massive crater in the ground, and the core of the city was sent to Northrend. There, it was almost immediately attacked by the rogue blue dragonflight, but ultimately, it became our main base of operations. Then, after we did a bunch of things in Northrend involving Yogg-Saron and the Lich King, Dalaran had been maintained and slightly rebuilt. Then, it was transferred to the Deadwind Pass to defend the Eastern Kingdoms against the Burning Legion invasion, and ultimately, it was once again airlifted and teleported with a spell to the Broken Isles, where it has been instrumental in us defeating Sargeras. Since this point,
Dalaran's just been everywhere, man.
Stuck in time on the Broken Isles.
Yeah, now when you go to it, it's still at the Broken
Isles.
Isles.
Keep in mind is that Dalaran, that you know as a hub and a floating city, is literally just nothing compared to what this place used to be. In fact, we have mainly used it as a military base for our campaigns. Of course, in-game and lore never really compare. In the lore, Goldshire has like 10k citizens, but in-game, there are like 3 buildings there,
There's like 5 citizens.
A dozen NPCs. However, I would say in the case of Dalaran, this is a bit more of an accurate representation. The floating Dalaran is mainly just the core of the city that remained, and Kirintor, I would guess, mainly rebuilt the most important and the most necessary buildings, but Dalaran as a regular city and a kingdom was a lot larger. Think of it something close to Stormwind. Now, I'm not saying lore Stormwind with like millions of people, but just imagine something like in-game Stormwind. So the question is, since nothing was
I never thought about that.
Teleport to the Dragon Isles, and at this point it is just
Dalaran, original Dalaran was probably massive.
This place finally return back
there it
home,
is. That's the purple bubble. Yeah, I do kind of wish they would just settle it back down here, but this was the big purple bubble crater, and I think this was updated. Mind you, this was updated, but in classic WoW, like original vanilla WoW, you couldn't even see inside this thing. It just looked like a giant purple like mystic wall that you couldn't get around or get through. And then eventually, I believe they updated it in game to look more like this.
Finally return back home and rebuild after decades of destruction. And
that would be cool if they brought it back and rebuilt it to its original size.
Like? So, a really interesting thing to note is that there has actually been a bit of progression, as in Kirintor sending a mission to the crater of Dalaran that remains in the northern eastern kingdoms in order to work on rebuilding the remains. So, interestingly enough, years ago, they had already started working on what was left that was not airlifted with the teleportation. This could mean 2 things in my opinion. Either they're building a new Dalaran there and they intend to continue to keep the current one mobile and flexible, or they are setting up the ground for Dalaran to return and to finish the rebuilding process. In my opinion, both of these would be really interesting and could provide a lot of opportunity for some just great development. So immediately, let's look at the case of a new Dalaran being built. In my opinion, this could definitely be practical, although obviously a lot more expensive. I'm guessing they would never be able to build a completely new Dalaran from scratch in its former glory, but honestly,
why would they? They have assets already.
To do that. The geopolitical scene has changed just insanely drastically over the past few decades, and the human kingdoms are not really that much of a thing aside from Stormwind, so having a really big magical one would not be of crucial relevance in the Eastern Kingdoms.
It would have to be a both faction city.
And this has been incredibly hinted at and retaken by the Alliance. A neutral Dalaran could be a good counterweight to maintain peace between the 2 factions as a neutral city, although in my opinion this would definitely be a smaller city that would serve as the head of the Kirintor. In regards to the current Dalaran that we have, I think that would be incredibly practical, as living on Azeroth is just dangerous and there are constantly things that are just, you know, jumping out of nowhere, invading out of nowhere, and they're just trying to destroy us. First,
it's a military hub.
The Isles, then the new islands, then the dragon ones. There are big threats going out there, so having a big base of operations that can unite both factions and serve as a staging ground for planetary defense that is also mobile would definitely be a really valuable asset. On the other hand, let's look at what would happen if Dalaran that we know of returns back to the crater and is no longer mobile. In my opinion, this could only work if an expansion happened after that would make this northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms relevant, as I really don't think it would be useful to just build a city for no reason if the zones are not important to the current expansion, and Blizzard would, without a doubt, not allocate the resources for this. However, seeing that there are talks of Gilneas returning, something going on with Undercity, potential hits with the Scarlet Crusade Awakening, and maybe even the entire Tyrellian Lighting, Blizzard could easily make this place relevant once again, and that would 100% justify Dalaran returning back to the original
That'd
place.
be a cool, like, in-game cinematic, bringing Dalaran back down into the crater.
Parts of the crater, maybe even the walls, and now the core could return to once again become a regional power. In my opinion, Dalaran would remain neutral, but it could become an actual city as opposed to just a floating fortress slash military base. I honestly doubt it would even be rebuilt back to what it once was, but this could be a really interesting turn of events, as we never had actually seen the
hadn't really thought about
Dalaran
this
in its full glory. However, I think the only way this could happen in a game is if we get an expansion that is relevant to the zone.
Voting's
and with
almost
the cross
closed.
factions, I doubt it will ever again become an alliance kingdom, and will more than likely remain neutral, especially after the defeat of Sylvanas and all the things that happened with the battle for Azeroth. Thank you for watching. Check out what will New Gilneas look like by clicking on the screen, and also check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real-world history. See you next time.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. You know, we've been talking about Gilneas and you know what that could look like. We've been talking about Darnassus, the new Darnassus with the new world seed, which is what I was thinking when I first clicked on this video, and what that's going to look like. But a new Dalaran, that's an interesting thought. Something I hadn't really considered. But a new Dalaran would be pretty cool. Yeah, the former glory of Dalaran restored. It would have to be a neutral city. Definitely have to be a neutral city. We're not about to take that back, considering cross factions, everything.